big ticket sales is what we're seeing in the market. Major acquisition, conversations around the acquisition between UACN and also Chi. All of this for Coca-Cola. We're going to have this conversation on this episode of Market Watch, brought to you by yours truly, Nairametrics Television. But beyond that, we're also going to be taking a look at what is happening in the market, because CBN right now, today, what's the time right now? I just checked my time. I'm not going to tell you, but I think in the afternoon today, we're going to be having the MPC meeting, Monetary Policy Committee meeting by CBN on the 24th and 25th of November this year. That's today and tomorrow. So we're going to know what really is the outcome of the MPC meeting, whether we're going to have the NPL further increase, how many basis points increase are we going to experience, and how that will affect the equities market, and then the all-share index. You know, one of the men, one of the analysts doesn't like the all-share index. He says what is more important to him is his personal portfolio. This is Market Watch. Let's go into the major conversation.
He's interested in his portfolio, not what happens to all-share index.
When people keep talking about this all-share index, I now becoming a slogan. It's not, let me get it clear, like I said.
All right.
It's not that I hate the all-share index, but it's a barometer for me to look at my portfolio. But it's not all that I need. When you tell me the all-share index I made 40%, which of my portfolio
is giving you 40%?
Giving 40%.
That's true.
That's correct. Absolutely, you are correct.
Very, very correct. Very, very correct. Let's take a look at this acquisition. It's something that is common among the banks, especially last decade and last 2 decades. But right now, we're seeing the FMCG, a couple of acquisitions. We're seeing UACN and Chi, major acquisition, 182 billion naira spent on that transaction. What's your take about that? And all of this for Coca-Cola.
Well, I think the beauty about it is when you look at the Coca-Cola, the Chi, and then you look at before now, Coca-Cola acquired Chi, and now it's Coca-Cola that is selling it out to UACN.
Yeah.
So that for me is good for corporate Nigeria.
Yeah.
Before now, we're only known to see foreign investors coming in to acquire a stake in some of these companies. But for the first time, I think, not really for the first time, but at least for a major player in the capital market, acquiring another major player that is not in the capital market directly. Remember, there was a time that Coca-Cola was in the market, but they were delisted, and then they acquired Chi. So for me, it's a good thing for UACN. You saw that news came in some months ago, and the market responded to it. But the results that have come in have not met up to investors' respond to that acquisition. And like you pointed out in your introduction, maybe it is the first time. You know, the man behind the numbers will always tell me whether it's the first time. We are seeing a consumer goods going into acquisition of this high ticket. I think, yes, we have seen one before, but it's not consumer. Maybe brewery sector. I think the brewery sectors have done some of those acquisitions before. Yeah,
the same consumer good, but subsector.
Subsector, exactly. So I've helped the man with the numbers on that. I got the numbers. I think so.
What do you think is the pull off? How did they pull off this ticket, this transaction? How did they pull it off?
One, I think it's a mixture of debt and cash.
Oh, okay.
17% cash from their cash flow and 83% debt.
So convertible loan?
Yes, it's not convertible because I think they have already gotten approval from SEC to raise a bond of about 150 billion.
Yeah.
That means it's short term now, but they intend to convert it to a longer term loan. About 83% of that amount secured through debt, and 17% of it through their cash. So, and they use a SPV, special purpose vehicle, to drive a wholly owned, 100% owned by USC. That is how they were able to pull it off. According to their presentation, facts behind the figures they did last week, they said Coca-Cola actually requested to be paid in dollars. So they have to work towards that, nail it up, then come back and rearrange and reanalyze it.
So if you look at what has really happened? Do you think that the return on investment? What's your take about the return on investment for this major acquisition? Because if you make this kind of acquisition, the investors are trying to see how much is this going to add to our bottom line? How much is this going to affect as regards capital gains and
from the disclosures that were made available.
Yeah.
I think
I love that. Available.
Sure.
From the disclosures that were made available.
Yeah.
I think it's something that is going to be a very, very good deal for UAC. In fact, like I was even discussing with Idika, honestly, I don't know how they were able to pull it off. So I think the return is going to be great because if you look at the numbers that were disclosed, that are out there.
Yeah.
I think UAC, their revenue is about 100 and.
I think
I think it's
last month. I think they did revenue about 159 billion.
Yeah, 159, and then they're expecting a revenue of Chi has a revenue of about as at 2024.
Yeah.
Over 400 billion.
Wow.
So you could see
major.
So it's quite so I think the returns that they expect is it's going to be massive.
So if it's just like, how do I put it? Okay, let me not use this example, but if you look at somebody who was exited, why do you think Coca-Cola exited? Do you think why do you think they exited? Because if it was a very, very decent asset, some people will be looking at it from that perspective. Like, you wouldn't want to lose a decent asset that is really contributing to your cash flow.
Sometimes it's strategy. What are the global strategy of Coca-Cola? Remember, they exited the market before they bought Chi. So it's not about. I don't think if you look at the Coca-Cola balance sheet, like they have looked at it and say Chi alone was giving them 400 billion. I don't think that is bad for any company to want to exit.
Yeah.
But it could be their strategy. Remember, Coca-Cola is a global brand. They're in Nigeria now, they have a lot of competitors in terms of very small industry. Like even Chi, even the Chi also have competitors now in other type of healthy drinks, that are coming up. So, depending on the strategy, looking at it, maybe will we be able to fight some of these local competitor, or we give it to a local player that has extensive reach? That's key again. UACN at itself have extensive reach all over the country. So
at a point, I think they said they were selling about 1 million units of gala per day.
You see, so they have
their CEO once
they have extensive reach outside. Outside major cities in Nigeria. So that also could be a take. A friend of mine will always say, "You choose your battles," and I think Coca-Cola is choosing his battles and looking for who can fight the battle with the local competitors. For me, I think that could be a strategy that they are using. That's my thought. But again, when you look at the numbers, I don't think it caused any red flag. The only red flag for me was always when a Nigerian company says special purpose vehicle. I really...
Why?
We don't really know who is this special purpose vehicle.
What's the difference between the special purpose vehicle, UAC food, and beverages, and then the UAC food?
You know why I'm saying that? Remember the first bank issue or special purpose SPV buying up. You remember whether it's government, whether it's whatever, the government came and said, no, we are not the special purpose vehicle that bought up the share from of First Bank from the other two major shareholders at that time. And up to today, we've not come clear cut who is those special purpose vehicles. So I think that sometimes, you see, we keep saying about clarity. It gives investors confidence. If today an investors know, it's just like in the United States of America, when they say that special purpose vehicle, and you hear that special purpose vehicle is driven by Warren Buffett, the market responds.
Very true.
But sometimes when you hide this this SPV, we don't know who are behind it, because who is behind the SPV determine whether he's just trying to create a name for himself or is an investor, and what has been his relationship in other companies with other shareholders. What do shareholders expect? Is it a special purpose vehicle that after now you see them too, they will exit? Like what we are seeing in Arade? This special purpose vehicle exit and that special purpose vehicle come in. So I think for me, that's my challenge.
No, I think that you are right, Mokhtar. When you talk of SPV, normally if you are doing PPP, normally, yes, you have to create SPVs to drive it where you have different interests, like maybe, assuming if it is, you want to install a factory, a turnkey factory, and a partnership with government. Then you have a government interest is there, the equipment manufacturers are there, then the sponsor of the project. That means you have to fuse 3 of them. That's where you now bring in the SPV to drive 3 of them that their interest. But in the case of UACN, I think what they are, because I read them, what they are said, the SPV is 100% owned by UACN.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and remember that UACN, they have different units.
Yeah, they even have logistics. I think GDS.
They have different SB, what we call SBO, certain business units.
Yeah.
Now, I think what they just want to do is that to create that unit to manage, to warehouse that Chi as an SBU. That could be the reason why they use SPV.
Yeah.
Because you have UACN Foods, you have UACN Storage, and a lot of them. So I think coming in and acquiring this thing, acquiring Chi Limited, that could be the reason why they use SPV. And equally to tidy up the transaction, make it very, very smooth and easy to conclude. That's my take on that. That could be the reason.
And the man behind the numbers is also the man behind the V.
And also coming back to that, the earlier question you asked about why they are leaving. If my memory serves me, correct, probably they want to, because Coca-Cola, they are the owners of Five Alive.
Yeah.
So maybe they want to maybe we have this, so why don't we just, concentrate a bit more on this, and then because in the first place, that's a competing brand as well too.
So why did they acquire it at first?
And what you guys just mentioned is equally another risk factor, because that means they have a competitor there too.
Now, they now have they know the secrets
in Coca-Cola. So that's another
just
risk there.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes
The beauty about all this that I'm happy about. Chile is a wholly indigenous company. So when everybody is fighting to acquire it, the Coca-Cola acquire and they are going, UACN acquire. And don't forget, UACN is the oldest company in the conglomerate in the Nigerian stock exchange.
Over 140 years.
So that's a good thing for us.
The MPC. It's like that big announcement that we always wait for. It affects everything. The Nigerian economy, it affects the equities, affects fixed income. 27%, that's what the current rate is. A lot of analysts, people like yourselves, are saying 25 basis point, 50 basis point. What are your predictions? Let me start from there. Are we seeing a 25 or 50 basis point cut?
I think for me, I'll go for 25 basis
25.
points.
How about you?
I think CBN, the governor, based on his track record of trying to be conservative, he might want to do 25%.
25%. How about you?
Go for 50%.
Well, if he's going by track records of being conservative, I'm thinking there will be a hole. And why why I'm thinking like that is if you look at what people are thinking should drive the cut, inflation. So I like classifying inflation into two. We have the real inflation and one of the rebase inflation. So if CBN now goes
all of them, whether it base inflation, as we are putting on real inflation, the key point is that it is inflation. It is that factor that will still drive what we are saying now.
When you go there, you made me remember something somebody said. The preacher was preaching one day. He said, Jonah entered the belly of the fish, or the fish entered the belly of the Jonah. He said, whether there is, somebody was trying to call, he said, okay, the news is that there is a fish and there's a Jonah. So for me, I personally think there might be a hole, because if you talk about the antecedent, it's talk about their conservative nature.
Yeah.
And whether you are looking at Emefiele, whether you are looking at Cardoso, whether you are looking at Soludo, you realize that after a major cut or a major hike, you don't see those hikes coming subsequently like that. You always see that hike, if it's a hike, after the hike, the next MPC meeting, remember before now, MPC meeting used to be every month. So the next MPC meeting, you see, they say maintain that hike. Then the next one you see they raise that hike. Then the next one you see they maintain the hike. The next one you see they raise the hike. Then they continue to raise the hike with what happened for almost 3 years. So I think they will look at the real variables on ground. Remember again, inflation in Nigeria is not driven by just one single factor. One of the major drivers of inflation in Nigeria still remains the foreign exchange market. And that market, as it stands now, we thought by now we should be doing 1,400, whether official or parallel. But you can see the hike. The market seems to have gone up from a low of about 1,430, 440. We are now seeing about 1,450. That's where it stands. So they need to also look at that. And now, why is that happening? They need to look at it. And main of the reason is that if you look at whatever we have enjoyed in this exchange rate coming down was not driven by price of oil. Because price of oil, look at the benchmark price and what we have now, they are not even relating at all. Benchmark budget $75, it's $65 that we have, so it's short for $10. Now, what have really driven this inflow? It has been driven by foreign portfolio investors. The NGS came up and told us we have about 2 trillion naira inflow, their last data of foreign portfolio that came to the market. Now, are these foreign portfolios still going to be there? They have to also look at that, because the capital gain tax is one thing the foreign portfolios are now watching. Are we among those people that will enjoy capital gain tax as will come in as institutional investors? Remember, when you talk institutional investors, there's local institutional investor and there's foreign institutional investor.
Yeah.
So the capital gain tax really exempts them. So those are the clarity even the CBN also will be looking at. Now, this is not a monetary policy decision. It's a fiscal policy decision.
Yeah, true.
So for me, I think when they look at all those variables, if they want to be true to themselves, a whole, and don't forget one major thing in DICA, we are going to next year, it's an election year. A lot of liquidity in the system.
See that angle.
Well, that means you are now disposing that they are likely to hold at 27.
I say they will hold. That's my personal prediction.
Prediction. Okay.
Prediction can be good without.
So on Wednesday, listen to the predictions, viewers. Listen. Mukhtar Mohammed is saying hold. You're saying
25%.
25%. He's saying 25%. So let's see who's going to win.
There are two against one.
2 against 1. Okay, what are my predictions?
Unless they have seen something. Unless they are not telling me. You know, when the two people that are behind figures are now standing at the same rate. When one says conservative and he didn't follow his path to become conservative. Let's watch.
All right, but how do you think this would affect the market, especially fixed income? And our fixed income market has been very juicy to a lot of investors. It's a hotbed for investors, because when you get in something as decent as 20-something%, I think it's really cool. So how do you think it will affect? Like 20-something%.
Before.
Like before.
Yes. Because
now it's 16, 17. But let me talk before the man behind the numbers might correct me.
Yeah.
I think the reason ordinarily a rate cut favor the equity market.
Sure.
Ordinarily.
Yes.
Now, it now depends on who is assessing the fixed income market in terms of who are those that are coming in. And if you look at the Nigerian fixed income market today, whether treasury bill, whether bonds, you realize it's the federal government that are needing this money. And when you look at the budget, there's shortfall. So that means that market is still very attractive. And because the government is coming in there, they would like people to be attractive. They will still give people returns. Just like what you see them doing the Eurobond.
Yeah.
So that is why for me, sometimes when those policy or rate cut comes in, it does not have a strong effect to see a lot of pull into the equity market. And they'll add to that, the equity market is not enjoying any policy as it stands. Rather, policy seems to go against them in the long run. The capital gain tax.
But
Well,
there
I
are
think
conversations
I
around
think I-
suspension.
Yeah,
No, please leave that conversation.
I think I agree with Mukhtar on the issue of the impact of rate cut on fixed income space.
Yeah.
Yes, ordinarily, if you cut rates, it should affect the yield from fixed income. But yeah, I agree with him. But you know the issue now.
What's the issue?
We have some level of liquidity in the system. Now, the banks are awash with cash, at least from the raise of capital.
Yeah.
Now, and maybe because of the risk environment, how risky the environment is, and credit situation, the bank ordinarily would prefer to put money in fixed income assets because they wouldn't like to increase their risk exposure.
Yeah, true.
So if you check what is happening, especially looking at the CBN standing deposit facility and standing lending facility, you now see what's actually happening. And that will go a long way to still maintain the healthy yield from the fixed income, despite the maybe assuming that they cut rate, even they cut now. So I don't think it's likely going to affect the yields from the fixed income space, even if they cut rate. Ordinarily, like he said, normally if they cut rate, the yield will come down, and investors will start shifting towards the equities market. You understand, where you have at least most of the you have the
enjoy
returns you
two
have
type
there.
of rate.
Capital appreciation and dividend yield.
And you also want to beat inflation.
Even at that, you have a lot of them, lot of stocks of over 80 of them giving you return above inflation, which is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And again, with inflation narrowing coming down, you can see the spread between nominal return and real return is equally increasing, and which is very, very good. But I think the fixed income space is likely going to sustain that, let me put it, higher yield, so to say.
Okay, so on a final note, where we don't have time, but on a final note, I need one line answer. Do you think it will affect their net interest margin for banks if we experience, say, a 50 basis point rate cut? Do you think it will affect their net interest margin?
Well, you can't just give a straight line. You know, normally if you cut rates, definitely that will reduce. That's supposed to reduce their let's say in
interest income.
In absolute terms, the interest they make.
Yes, yeah.
But on the other hand, too, it's supposed to boost their risk assets. They're supposed to give out loans because if you drop, people will collect loan.
More loans.
Like I mentioned now, the challenge is the environment. Are banks willing to give out loans?
All right. Well, moving to the all-share index. There were lots of conversations around. The market was bloody last week, and but in the midst of all of that, against the backdrop of the bloodbath we experienced in the market, we saw 65% rally, and one was very explosive from NCR. NCR is into tech and software development and all that. And then we saw Tantalizers, they did decent numbers, gains from University Press, Tantalizers, Cavitin, and then UAC. Obviously, we know the reason behind UAC. that news, everybody will want to play around it. But what do you
I don't know what I'm
think of
did you buy?
2.2% drop in the market? What do you think about it?
You see,
I know.
Dika always wants to put me on the spot. But let's look at it this way. When you look at those stocks that really gained, that you say they have last week gained, did you see value? Did you see fundamentals? Because in a market that as the market it is now, I can't but agree with Indica fundamental. Then I'll add value. So if you look at those numbers in those stocks that gain, which one has really been investor friendly? You realize there's only one equity there, UACN. If you look at others, when you look at liquidity nature of those gains,
Tantalizer.
No,
but Tantalizer was in the news lately for exportation of
Even
that news affected the exportation.
Even NCR.
If you are in the news, but what makes you become the news is the value you bring for investors in the long run.
I agree with you.
So when you are investing in a deep market, like we'll call it, it's not the news that matter. It's the history behind the news or the history behind the companies that really matter at this time. News can be, remember, we've seen news, you take some stock to all-time high. I can tell you about Owando. News came in, took Owando to all-time high.
Yeah,
today,
Where is it?
News itself does not take you further.
So it's not substantial enough.
News is not, the time news takes you further is when we now start looking at the company, we now see the news in the numbers. Do you get it?
Yeah.
So for me, when you look at that, it still portray a weak market. That's what I'm going to.
So, but I agree with him. But equally, to like always say, it's always good to look at the valuation of these companies, whether it is driven by their fundamentals or whether it is by sentiment or whether it is driven by news. But in the case of the top performer, I think you mentioned NCR.
Yes.
Right?
If
you look at NCR result, I think
65%.
9 months, they did very well, moving from a loss of about 2.7 billion in 9 months 2024 to profit of about 230 million. You can see a shift.
Yeah, true.
So I think
they're gradually recovering.
Yeah, they are recovering, and at least that affects investor sentiments, which is good. But to me, even if I looked at it,
so is that the news behind the numbers that he was talking about?
Yeah, that could
be the news behind the number. But you know, when we talk about number, I said it here. I think Indika might be the one to answer that question. How liquid is?
No, in terms of trading liquidity, it is not there. I think it's ranking the 72 most traded stock, which is not too good. About 5.8 million stocks traded in 3 months. It is not too fantastic. It is not too good.
You remember the deep? I mean, what Indika talk about the deep and the bond. And what did they call it? The
pump and dump.
The pump and dump. It brought out that liquidity issue. So one should be careful. I don't become a dump.
Okay. Lots of conversation. If we have the entire day, I think the equities market is something that we can talk about for an entire day. But then this is where we call it a wrap. You sure know that we do this every Mondays and Wednesdays. Catch up with us for you to get an insight into the market, understand what is really behind these numbers, and then that will give you an informed decision as to how to approach your portfolio. That's it on today's episode of Market Watch. I'll see you on Wednesdays. And tell us in the comment section. I want to hear from you particularly. Tell us, what are your predictions for the MPC meeting today and tomorrow? Do you predict rate cuts, rate hike? Would also love to hear from you. You never can tell. We might have something for you if you're able to predict correctly. Cheers. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Cheers.